There's a major update in the investigation into Hayden Panettiere's death. Police are looking into her ex-boyfriend, Brian Hickerson, who was inside the apartment when she died. There are also claims that he's been arrested, and the DEA has now joined the investigation. A lot is happening, so let me catch you up. The call came into Greenville Dispatch on a Sunday afternoon. A friend of Hayden's called 911 at 1:51 p.m. to report that the actress was unresponsive and in cardiac arrest inside a residence in Greenville, South Carolina. The location was an apartment complex called Judson Mill Lofts, and according to a police incident report, Panettiere's one-time boyfriend and his brother were at the apartment complex, where she went into cardiac arrest and died, with the Greenville Police Department confirming Panettiere's on-again, off-again partner Brian Hickerson and his brother Zach Hickerson were at the scene. What happened in the minutes before that 911 call is still murky, but the dispatch audio tells its own story. TMZ obtained dispatch audio of responders being sent to her location to perform CPR on someone who had overdosed. That single word, overdosed, is why this case never got filed away as a simple tragedy. Dispatch audio obtained from Broadcastify.com references a possible overdose and CPR in progress, though authorities have not addressed whether an overdose actually took place. When officers and EMS arrived, they found two men already there. Two men, Zach and Brian Hickerson, were identified in the report as witnesses, and investigators spoke with them while EMS crews were treating Panettiere, with both remaining at the apartment before being escorted into the hallway after she was pronounced dead. The responding officers' notes described two very different reactions from two brothers in the same room. The incident report noted that Zach Hickerson was very emotional, while EMS crews were trying to revive Panettiere, while Brian Hickerson did not become emotional until after Panettiere had been declared dead. There's another detail buried in that report that investigators clearly did not brush past. Brian Hickerson showed police a bag of medication that Panettiere was taking when she died. Why he was the one holding that bag, and why he handed it over before anyone asked, is one of the threads that's kept this case open. Paramedics fought for her regardless. The report states that EMS continued life-saving efforts for an extended amount of time before declaring Panettiere dead at 2:31 p.m., with the officer writing that there did not appear to be any obvious physical reason for her being unresponsive. An hour later, she was gone. The coroner's office moved fast. Officials said Panettiere was in cardiac arrest when first responders arrived. An autopsy followed the next day, and it complicated things rather than closing them. An autopsy was completed Monday, and the Greenville County Coroner's Office said no signs of trauma were discovered that would have contributed to the actress' death. No bruising, no injury, nothing visible that would explain a 36-year-old woman's heart simply stopping. That left one avenue, toxicology. No cause or manner of death has been determined, pending the results of additional testing. And toxicology tests, which are standard in many death investigations, could take weeks to complete. Police, for their part, were careful with their language from day one. Police said there were no initial signs of foul play, and the circumstances surrounding Hayden's death did not appear to be suspicious. But not suspicious and closed are two very different things, and Greenville PD made sure to say so themselves. The Greenville Police Department said it is responding to Panettiere's case in the same manner as all other death investigations, stating that the department works with the coroner's office, receives its findings, reviews the facts and evidence, and then decides if a criminal investigation is warranted. With no cause or manner of death determined, pending additional testing, her remains were released to her family that Tuesday. The case, though, stayed wide open. To understand why Brian Hickerson became the center of gravity in this investigation, you have to go back through 6 years of a relationship. That was, by Panettiere's own account, violent almost from the start. The two were first linked in 2018, and it didn't take long for police to get involved. A spokesperson for the lapped confirmed Hickerson was arrested early one Thursday in May 2019, and his bond was set at $50,000. With Hickerson released on bond later that afternoon, that wasn't a one-off. In 2021, Hickerson pleaded no contest to 2 felony counts of injuring a partner stemming from a 2020 arrest, and he was sentenced to 45 days in jail, 4 years of formal probation, domestic violence classes, restitution, and a 5-year protective order. Panettiere didn't stay quiet about any of it. In her memoir released just months before her death, she wrote in detail about the man she referred to only as Brian. She detailed the evolution of a once exciting new relationship that quickly escalated into years of domestic violence, describing heated, often drunken arguments that ended with him slapping and hitting her between screams. At one point writing that, "One night he busts up my face so badly I don't leave the house for weeks." She also laid out a pattern. Panettiere wrote about at least 3 different instances in which Brian was arrested after he'd hit her during a fight, including on Valentine's Day in 2020, while the couple was on vacation in Wyoming. Hickerson didn't deny it once the book came out. In a May 2026 interview with TMZ, he said he had read Panettiere's memoir and acknowledged he had a lot to drink, and I got physical with Panettiere, and I got arrested on Valentine's Day of 2020. He even called that section of the book his own. He called the parts of the book detailing domestic violence my chapter, saying everybody should read it. Then, just days before Panettiere died, something happened in a courtroom that a lot of outlets have zeroed in on. A judge denied the boyfriend's felony reduction bid 3 days before Hayden Panettiere's death. He'd been trying to get his past convictions knocked down, and a judge said no, right before the woman he'd been convicted of hurting turned up dead in an apartment he was standing in. Panettiere's mother, Leslie Vogel, hasn't hidden how she feels about him. Speaking publicly, she pointed to years of watching the relationship from the outside. There is a lot of history in the past that Brian has enabled Hayden many times, and this is why her father and I had been concerned for a long time about him, Vogel said. It's the kind of statement that doesn't accuse anyone of a crime outright, but it tells you exactly who a grieving family has been thinking about since the moment they got the call. Investigators clearly weren't satisfied with a quiet close, either. By midweek, the case had shifted gears entirely. TMZ reported that law enforcement officials were not satisfied that Panettiere's death was the result of an overdose of prescribed medications, and were trying to determine if there were other factors involved, with the Greenville Police Department reportedly looking into the potential involvement of Hickerson, who was at the scene when Panettiere was pronounced dead. Detectives didn't just sit on that suspicion. TMZ reported that police arrived at Hickerson's family's home that Wednesday morning, though they did not disclose the nature of the discussion. Days later, the case escalated again, this time out of the state entirely. The DEA joined the investigation into Panettiere's death, with the Greenville City Police Department remaining the lead investigative agency and the DE assisting. Federal drug agents don't typically get pulled into a case that's already been ruled accidental with no further questions. And it wasn't the only specialist added to the file. A narcotics investigator joined the South Carolina police investigation into Panettiere's death, according to her mother. To be clear about where things officially stand, no charges have been filed, and no arrest has been made connected to Panettiere's death itself. Neither brother has been named as a suspect or person of interest in the investigation into the Heroes and Nashville star's death. Hickerson's own attorney has leaned hard on that distinction. His attorney Sloan Ellis said in a statement, "Hayden's death remains under investigation, and it is important to allow that investigation to proceed." As has been publicly reported, police confirmed there were no signs of foul play. Out of respect for Hayden's loved ones and the ongoing investigation, there will be no further comment at this time. But no foul play was said on day one, before an autopsy, before toxicology, before the DEA got involved, before a narcotics investigator got assigned, and before police showed up at his family's front door. The gap between that early statement and everything that's followed is exactly what's kept this story alive for a week straight. So where does this leave things as of right now? Brian Hickerson has not been arrested in connection with Hayden Panettiere's death. He remains, in the language investigators and her own family have used, the person the case keeps circling. A man with a documented history of violence against her, a bag of her medication in his hand when police arrived, and a felony reduction denied by a judge just 3 days before she died. That is not the same thing as a charge. It's the profile of someone federal and local investigators are actively working to either clear or build a case against. The toxicology results are the piece everyone is waiting on. Those tests will determine whether what killed her was an accidental overdose, a reaction to prescribed medication, a cardiac event with no connection to drugs at all, or something that opens the door to criminal charges against someone in that apartment. Until that report lands, Greenville police have made clear they're not rushing to a conclusion in either direction. Their own statement leaves the door open on purpose. They receive the coroner's findings, review the evidence, and then decide whether a criminal investigation is warranted. That's a department that knows it might be building a case, not closing a file. What's not in dispute is the arc of the relationship that put Hickerson in that room in the first place. A woman who spent years publicly detailing the abuse she said she survived, who put it all in a memoir released only months before her death, ended up dying with that same man standing beside her, holding her pills, explaining to officers what she'd been taking. Her mother's already said the family had been worried about him for a long time. The DEA and a narcotics investigator don't get added to a case unless somebody in a position to know thinks there's more to find. Panettiere spent the back half of her career trying to be honest about the parts of her life that hurt the most. The addiction, the postpartum depression, the loss of her younger brother Jansen in 2023, and the relationship she said left her afraid to leave her own house. Her memoir gave a rare and intimate glimpse into her life behind closed doors, opening up about postpartum depression, addiction and recovery, trauma, domestic abuse, and loss. According to a synopsis for the book, she wrote that chapter thinking it was behind her. Instead, it's the same chapter investigators are now rereading line by line, trying to figure out if the story she survived once ended up being the story that killed her. No arrest has landed yet, but between the DEA's involvement, the narcotics investigator, the police visit to the Hickerson family home, and a judge's ruling that came 3 days too late to matter to anyone but the record, this is not a case winding down. It's one that's still very much building toward an answer, and the man at the center of it knows it as well as anyone.